Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Broom Radio slash the Pot Radio. Um, this is the book club for the Sharia Way um, book club. Yeah, this is the book club container where we are reading books pertaining to related to not just books, but text, media, um, articles related to the Sharia Way. That way is a lineage space in the breathing room Discord. And I feel as of now, the book clubs are a weekly thing. Um, and right now we're deep diving, I would say, into Hazrat Inyat Khan's mysticism of sound and music. What's really cool about this book is a number of things. If you've been following along with the book club, first of all, thank you. Secondly, I also want to say that yeah, this book is has just been really interesting. I think a couple of us are engaging with it in various different ways. Um, it's also interesting because I don't really find myself wanting to prepare too much before these book clubs. So, yeah, my intention is to have a free flowing, open discussion container each time we have these discussions. This particular container is focused on chapters 7 and 8. So, let's get into it. Um, Chapter 7 is about, or is titled, The Spiritual Significance of Color and Sound. And chapter 8 is titled, I believe, The Ancient Music. So I'll start just like I usually start each container by asking anyone who's here or anyone who's listening asynchronously to take a moment to reflect on some passages or paragraphs or pages that stood out to you um, while reading chapters 7 and 8. And I welcome anyone to unmute or share in the chat, take pictures of, screenshot. And if you're listening asynchronously and you want to pause to reflect, I welcome that too. Maybe I'll start us off too. And let me find one of the earlier passages that spoke to me. Okay. I wanted to point to paragraph. Oh, let's see if I can do paragraph. Okay, paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Paragraph 7 in chapter 7. 7, 7. And I'll read a bit of it where the author writes, the most interesting part of this knowledge is how to different persons, different colors appeal, and how different people enjoy different sounds. The more one studies this, the more one finds its relation with a particular advancement of man's evolution. For one will find that at a certain time of one's evolution, one loved a certain color, and then one lost contact with that color. With one's growth and evolution in life, one begins to like some other color. It also depends on the person's condition, whether they're emotional, passionate, romantic, warm, or cold, whether sympathetic or disagreeable, whatever their emotional condition in accordance with that they like or dislike, that they like or dislike. And then he just goes on to um talk about how you can basically like deduce where someone is in their personal life, their emotional life, or their like life cycle based on the colors that they're attracted to, the colors that call to them. And for me, I just thought that that was fun because Um, recently I've been kind of, and I'm sure a lot of people can attest to this, but recently I've been kind of engaging with colors and adorning myself, dressing myself, um, from this kind of lens where I'm like, I kind of want the colors that I wear to reflect where I am right now, like personally. And sometimes I'll choose things be like solely because they reflect where I am in my life cycle. And so it's kind of fun. But I also want to like kind of pose the question to y'all and see and get a sense of where you guys are at with that. If you like engage with that as like a personal practice, a magical practice, um, an experimental practice, ritualistic practice, where do you guys stand on your self adornment reflecting like your emotional or mental state?
Hello. I think it reflects for sure, but like I don't know how exactly. But like for like consciously I'll just put on like my favorite color because I like to be able to like just look down at myself and get a little flash of certain color that I like and like kind of reground myself and like okay, like it's gonna be an okay day. I picked a good color to look at if no matter what's going on around me, at least I got some nice color to like reground myself with. So I know like it shows up in that regard, but like in a way, like I don't know like how it reflects in other choices, but I'm sure it does like subconsciously.
Yeah, Tiff, I agree. It's mostly subconscious for me too, where I'll like get dressed and then have a day and then like reflect. Sometimes it'll be like intentional where I'm like, oh, I'm in my heart. And I know like people say that like the heart chakra reflects as like green. And so like I'll be like, yeah, I'm wearing green today. Or like I'll pick a color assortment um out of like an option of things that I may be like buying and be like, oh, I want the one with like the blue label and like or the blue cup when I'm drinking my morning coffee. So and it's like totally like subconscious, but I would say like yeah, like it has a little bit of a conscious edge sometimes like when I'm like what kind of energy do I want to like vibe with today? Lexi says I mostly wear what's comfortable, but sometimes I wear colors based on the days of the week slash foreign days. For sure. I feel like that's part of it too.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same as far as like planetary days. Um, but also I feel like greens and blues are usually very grounding for me.
Mm.
So those are usually like my go-to where like if I have that on, I know I'll just like feel in my essence and like feel somewhat calm and grounded.
Yeah, that's dope. Does anyone else have a color that grounds them? Like, I like that you said green and what else, Truly?
Blue?
Blue? Ah, okay.
Mhm. Yeah.
Mm. Mm. Lexi says pink and purple. I feel like greens and blues ground me too in a particular kind of way, where like I'm more flowy and
Mhm.
like I'm like able to like navigate situations that like I don't know. Yeah, like if I'm wearing green right now. It's like probably one of my favorite colors to wear, to be honest with you.
What kind of green?
So it's a mix of green. It's my Columbia jacket, the one with the like
Oh,
light,
okay. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and the dark green like panel.
Mhm.
I also like purples too. Like this is turning into like a fashion conversation. Like purple socks,
Purple
like on
socks,
my
you said?
yeah,
Ooh.
or like purple nail polish on my toe polish.
Like a plum or like what kind of purple?
Ooh, good question. Lavender.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, definitely different vibe from plum.
Yeah. For sure. What vibe does plum give you?
Well, I feel like it's more of like a regal color. Like it reminds me of those like jewel colors where it's like a deep
Mm-hmm.
magenta or like a deep teal, like a deep plum. Like those just all feel like very regal and like royal to me. Um so almost like mature in a way, but not like old hag mature. Just like I don't know, wise I guess too. Um yeah. What else that was coming up for me when I was listening to this passage um was my childhood bedroom. When I was like a tween, I went from becoming obsessed with like to hot pink, from hot pink to maroon, like a very deep maroon color. And so I painted my bedroom that color for a while up until like I think it was like I was still in college. And I think midway through college, I was like, F this, I needed to change this because one, my room wasn't that big. So definitely like darkened it and made it feel a little bit small. And then I completely changed it and I like made it this ritual and I decided to paint my room like a sage, like a light sage green. Um
I like that pivot too.
yeah, and when I was reading about like the how he was comparing it to like emotional state, or like what that person's going through with colors, that definitely like aligned with me because I felt like when my room was maroon, while it was also like comforting and made me like seek into my root, it
Mm,
kind of I it was definitely a period of time where I kind of sulked in my
yeah,
root, if that makes sense, and I really was just like in hindsight like overwhelmed by things coming up.
yeah,
um so that yeah, that pivot I really like jumped from like from that state to more of like into my heart, and like it definitely just felt like a release for me.
yeah. Wow, dude, that's so powerful.
Yeah.
I That actually reminds me of a time where I like moved back home and I had the room that was like maroon colored, and it was quite literally like when you said like root stuff and like rooting in your roots, it sounds
Mhm.
like you kind of like alluding to was
Mhm.
I had so many dreams while being in that room that related to like the womb. Like
Mhm.
that's when I had so many like, you know how like we talk about lineage a lot here? Like I was
Yes.
having first kind of sproutings of a lot of those like ideas in that room. And
Yeah.
it literally would feel that way sometimes when I would go to sleep that I was like back in the womb again. And then when I moved out, the color of my room of well, it was the apartment that I was gonna stay in was like this peach pink. And
Ooh.
so like yeah, I'm like, there is something to it. Like, I even think about it when I consider like different colors of cars that I've had. I'm
Mm.
like, yo, there definitely is like something to that like color theory and that color magic. And also, like you said, how it reflects almost like where you could be on your spiritual journey, like on a
Mhm.
light tip, you know?
Mhm.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I feel like it's so powerful, like applied to like bedroom color, because
Mhm.
like I don't know, at least for me, like I would spend a lot of time there, and that's also where you sleep. So it's where you like are kind of vulnerable
Definitely.
and like make that switch from like waking world to like dream world.
Uh-huh.
So
Uh-huh.
definitely, yeah, definitely big impacts on that. I
Yeah.
feel.
Dang.
It's cool that you were having like womb dreams and that you felt like it was in a womb. Because I feel like that's like that type of color, I feel like definitely evokes that. But I've never like put two and two together. So that's really
Yeah.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah. It was like super abstract. And I feel like it's still like even in this moment, still very abstract for me. But I
Mhm.
think, and like that's what the book is alluding to, that it's like maybe not something you can put into words, but it's something that like, yeah, like you might not even consciously think about it, like Tiff said earlier, but you're engaging with that color and that color theory, and like, the spectrum of colors that our eyes can pick up are engaging with these different things, whether we're like in tune with, we might just be like, oh, I'm waking up to get a coffee, but it's like,
Yeah.
that's see every day. So it does. I think it has a huge impact.
Yeah.
Or just how like one would read. Maybe not an impact, but like how you could sort of reflect back to yourself, like, dang, that's where I'm at right now, or that's where I was, you know?
Mhm. Yeah.
Super cool.
I liked also how, like, at one part he was talking about, like, the science aspect of it too,
Mm-hmm.
and also, like, tying that into, like, the, like, medical profession. Because
Ooh,
even, yeah, just, like, going to, like, the bare bones of what color is, like, according to science, um, like, what a color is, like, what wavelength or color spectrum that it's reflecting out.
yeah,
So, it makes sense to me at least of, like, of course, our subconscious is, like, interacting with it in a certain way because our cells are, like, communicating with an object's, like, reflection of that color, and it's, like, interacting back at us and out of us, if that makes sense.
it does. Do you have like a specific passage to bring us to, Julie? Because I do remember him saying,
Um, Let me
oh,
see if I can find it.
yeah, for sure. Because I really love that part about like the wavelength and just kind of this idea of like, at, gosh, like wave particle interaction. I mean, physics talks about it a lot, so I'm not like, like breaking the mold by saying it, but I do feel like
Yeah.
it's something, there's something to it. And I think Nobu was commenting earlier in the broom, in the channel for Shut It Away book club, and was reflecting back some of his takeaways. And I was saying how like, to me, it's through reading this book, it's becoming more clear that like some of these things that physics talks about, a lot of like animist spiritualists talk about, a lot of oh, excuse me, a lot of astrologers talk about, is this interaction within the atmosphere of these things that are like, I guess, like relatively like mundane, like the color of one's wall, the color of, a car, the color of the sky at any given time. But it's almost being suggested that these things reflect this sort of greater interaction with like the like transpersonal nature of reality, question
Yeah.
mark, but I mean, I feel like that's what like Hazrat Inyat Khan's almost like pointing to.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially the part where he's talking about creating invisible vibrations around an individual person. I
Mm.
think this is for me, I'm using the PDF. It's page 43. I don't know if it's the same for the actual book. I hope it is. Let me see what paragraph. Um, it's paragraph 15. It starts with color and sound are not only the language in which one communicates with the life without. Let me know if you guys can't find it or can't find it.
Oh, found it. It's on page 50 for those with the book.
Okay. Thank you for that.
You want to read it, Julie?
The whole paragraph?
If you want to.
Cool. Okay, so I'll start where I left off. But also the language in which one communicates with the life within. One might ask how it is done. We can see the answer in certain scientific experiments. Special plates are made, and by speaking near such a plate, marks are made upon the plate with sound and vibrations. Those marks make either harmonious or inharmonious forms. If that is true, then every person, from morning till evening, is making invisible forms in space by what he says. He is creating invisible vibrations around him, and so he is producing an atmosphere. Therefore, it is that one person may come into the house, and before he speaks, you are tired of him. You wish to get rid of him. Before he has said or done anything, you are finished with him. You would like him to go away, for in his atmosphere, he is creating a sound. A sound is going on which is disagreeable. There's another person with whom you feel sympathy, to whom you feel drawn, whose friendship you value, whose presence you long for. Harmony is continually created through him. That is sound too. Yeah, that's such a juiced paragraph, in my opinion. It's so crazy.
Definitely. Thank you for reading it too. I definitely highlighted it, especially when he's like talking about getting tired of people and wanting to get rid of them.
Yeah. He was really like honing in on that point.
Yeah.
Like 3 sentences worth like of him being like, you really want to get rid of him. You hate this guy. Like, okay.
Oh my gosh. I'm like, have you ever felt this way, Hazrat and Yakan? Like, do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, right. Drop names. Let's go. What's
Yeah,
the tea? What's the tea?
absolutely.
It's funny though. I feel like he's also pointing to like feng shui in a way. And also
Mhm,
like what Lexi brought up, like invoking the like wearing colors based on like the planetary days.
mhm.
I feel like that all like can play into that atmosphere that he's saying a person creates while like interacting with color
Yeah,
and
definitely.
sound. Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
Oh no, I was finished.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Because 'cause I'm like, we didn't even talk about that part of, like, how I mean, we just talked about the internal scope of, like, adorning oneself or maybe, like, aligning with planetary colors and days, but it's also, like, really interesting when you flip it and look at the perceiver and how you're being perceived by maybe adorning those things or having those types of colors around you or, like, the, like, externalized effect that they may have on the way that you see reality or perceive your world, I feel like is kind of like what he's
Mm.
talking about. It's I think maybe he's like vocalizing it through virtue of and like context of like relationships, but it's also interesting because I think that can be kind of applied to like anything where like people are like, oh, like that's not my vibe, and it's like why not? Like I feel
Mhm.
like that's maybe something that I ask myself. Maybe that's just like personally like how I do things, but it's also like yeah, it brings another scope of focus, I think, to the whole idea of like what sort of things you prefer and what the atmosphere of them are and what sort of things you don't
Mhm.
prefer and what the atmosphere of those things are.
Mhm.
Really interesting to me.
Yeah, I agree.
Lexi says also buying things with intention, like clothes with specific colors. Definitely. Yeah, I feel like he's almost like speaking to how you can imbue. This is like a very Venusian take in my opinion, where he's like you can imbue the spirit of beauty and agreeability, and I know that there's like a little bit of a stigma behind that, but like agreeability into like anything you do, which also could be like likened to in some contexts to like making things sacred or blessing something,
Mhm.
if interact with it, which I think is also very very interesting here too as well. What comes up for y'all? Oh yeah, because in the next paragraph he says, okay, I'll read this. If that is true, then it is not only the external signs, but also the inner condition that is audible and visible. Though not visible to the eyes and not audible to the ears, yet it is audible and visible in the soul. We say, quote, I feel his vibration. I feel the person's presence. I feel sympathy or antipathy towards that person. There is a feeling, and a person creates a feeling without having said anything or done anything. Therefore, a person who is in a quote, wrong vibration without doing or saying anything wrong creates the wrong atmosphere, and you find fault with him. It is most amusing and very funny to see how people may come to you with a complaint. I've said nothing, I've done nothing, and yet people dislike me and are against me. That person does not know that it is not because of his or her saying or doing anything. It is because of their being. Bars, yo. What do y'all make of that? I feel like I'd like to hold space for that. Like, yeah, breaking that down.
It's such a beautiful way to be like, it is what it is. Like, the way that he just described that is basically just like, it is what it is. Like, it's just you.
Yeah. Can you say more on that, Julie?
Um,
Or like what how you see it?
yeah, I feel like, well, I feel like he's honestly like, I guess, like, trying to provoke the reader into just like acceptance.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'd have to agree. I'm gonna read what Psychonaut says.
Okay.
I mean, I think this is why a lot of assholes have such an easy time stuff, because the agreeability of others is a foregone conclusion. Thus, I think there is something to be said for a defensive practice in this as well. Maybe this simply amounts to a level of emotional or self awareness. Like, if your perception shifts, okay, why do I feel this way now? Are you speaking kind of to? I feel that, first of all. There, people are assholes, first of all. Like, and it's like they don't even see it, I guess, is like the thing that I'm kind of wondering in what you brought up, Psychonaut. Like, a lot of the times motherfuckers be off cuff and like literally think that they could do no wrong. And this is like definitely not a criticism of them, but I do think that that's what Hazrat and Yakan is kind of talking about. Like, you just kind of have to accept that. I think Adam spoke to this when he shared a screenshot too. For like in the thread of this book club, is that he spoke to like how Hazrat Inyat Khan brings us to focus of like the duality of like harmony and disharmony, and like how harmony and disharmony as duality as it stands so far in this chapter seems like it only really exists in like human relationships, and not just like human relationships to one another, but like our relationship to things, you know? And
Mhm.
there's always, yeah, I think what you're saying, Julie, is really dope. Like, there's an alternative where you can just kind of like accept things the way they are. And this is not coming from the perspective of like spiritually bypassing things,
Mhm.
but it actually like it really relates also to like this video I was watching earlier on like um Kali, or like the goddess Kali, and how like um she'll like transform things, or like you'll kind of like meet her presence on your path, I guess, so to speak, when you're ready for things to like transform. And like for me, when I think of acceptance, I'm like, I think about the type of acceptance, which I'm sure you were alluding to, Julie, like the type that's like a stepping stone or a placeholder for transformation. Like, I can't change situation X, so I'm going to accept X so that like the bridge that I build to get to Y is built with this stability and like concreteness and like with my own self. And like maybe the other person for just being a stupid asshole, like Psychonaut said, you know? Like
Yeah.
but yeah, I'd be curious what else comes up for y'all. Tiff says that paragraph was the one for me. Would you like to say more?
Yeah, I just felt very seen because like
Mm,
it's like, you know,
that part.
sometimes the vibe just be off, and I usually be like, oh no, I give them the benefit of the doubt. You know, everybody's got problems. Meh. And then like you wait for something to happen, and then something happens, and then you're like, yep, I should have left. I should have not done that. Should have not done that. So it's like, yeah, I have the ability to read the room, so I should like do something with that knowledge. Relatable content.
Damn, Tiff. Yeah, because it's like why would I stay in a room if it stank? You know? You know? That kind of sounds like basic, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's also like I'm not gonna get mad at my body or like my mind for telling me that it stinks, you know? Also, I feel like that's something to be that I feel like that's kind of like what he's talking about too in this chapter. Like maybe also accepting the fact that like something is it does bring about antipathy towards you. And then like for lack of better words, like you don't fuck with something. And that kind of I won't even just say okay, but like it's almost like what he's saying is like it's a feature of being in harmonious union with um these like atmospheric states of experience, you know, if everything has a vibe and everything has a sound, it's like okay, then like that's not my vibe and that's not my sound, that's not my harmony, and maybe this duality only exists because I'm like a separate self, and maybe that's okay for this particular context because there's something that my separate self wants to learn, wants to master, wants to grow in. And I'm definitely expanding Hazrat Inyat Khan's point at this point. This is like Hoda's point. But I kind of like feel that way. Like when I was like listening to the video about Kali, I was just like, damn, like she is for me, like I'd say like a goal, you know, like it just feels like the story that I was listening to was relating to this like feminine prowess that can kind of just like cut through the bullshit and be at peace with that and like almost um find a resolve at the fact that things are separate and outside of harmony, so that when like harmony does find us throughout circumstance, it is kind of funny that there was like disharmony or like we did experience disharmony.
Mhm.
So it's like, yeah, it's really interesting.
I'm wondering how like authenticity plays into this. Like,
Oh,
is something harmonious to us because it's authentic to us specifically? And whereas like in the opposite sense, like is something disharmonious just because it's inauthentic to us?
mm,
Or
mm,
like inauthentic to what we could be interacting with? Or do you
mm.
see where I'm like
I do. I see.
poking at?
Really, I literally feel it. I'm like, yep. I think it is. I think so. Yeah. Would you? I don't know. What do y'all think? I agree. I definitely agree.
Yeah, if anyone wants to unmute, feel free.
Yeah, let's chop it up. Because I also feel like authenticity kind of gets a bad rap, and and then also there's like another level to it where everyone has a personal relationship with what's authentic to them.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I feel like it's important to bring into this kind of like transpersonal scope where it's like we're talking about like harmony and like not harmony and like um being in union with like your whole environment, and it's like okay, these are like really big things, but I do like the scope that you're bringing it to, Julie, where it's like, but what if I like it because it's authentic to me? Like, I really fuck with this because it's like,
Mm-hmm.
it actually is like an extension of my self expression. Is that kind of like what you're gesturing at?
Yeah, and I feel like it could even be beyond like, hmm. Now I feel like it's like complicated, but I want to say it can go beyond self, but I don't mean like, I mean like a very specific self and not necessarily like maybe it points towards like subconscious self or like self
Mhm.
outside of self, like what how Nobu says, self-conceptual, cause self-conceptual self, I think
Yeah.
is what he says.
Really.
Um, so it's like it's like at a subconscious level, like it's not, um, like it doesn't necessarily like isn't something that you can necessarily point to in the conscious level, but your subconscious is doing it, if that makes sense.
Hmm. It does. Yeah. Yeah. And I was kind of wondering if like, if that's kind of what you were talking about, Julie, when you were like authentic to your, if I could have like rewinded time to go back and ask, I would be like, do you mean the larger self, like self with a capital S, or like self-conceptual self? So thank you. I feel like you broke it down for me really well. But like I do agree also with what you said, that I feel like it's like super complex, and also it's like it might be what like Hazrat Inyat Khan is like helping us to investigate, or like helping his audience like investigate as he like poses these questions, is like to sift through that, like what is authentic, and also to like situate perhaps, and maybe we're just doing it for this book club, but I do love that frame where it's like, okay, let me situate this self that I'm answering to, this self that is questioning what's authentic and what isn't, in these two kind of scopes of like, I have like my larger self, like the I am self, and then I have this self conceptual self, which is like Hoda, who likes iced coffees and like jackets, you know what I mean?
And
Like
Columbia jackets. Is that what you just said?
purple socks, yep.
I
But
want to read what Tiff wrote
yeah,
because I feel like this is what I wanted to get at, but then I didn't. Um, so Tiff writes, I think if you are grounded in a particular authentic vibe, it can interact with the authentic vibe of others, and maybe the vibes are different but feel right based on authenticity.
yeah, I fuck with that. This like transpersonal, authentic self. It's like this is authentic maybe to me in this moment, and then like later on, something else is gonna be authentic. But it's also like I don't know, because in my mind's eye, I'm like seeing an example of like I don't know if y'all have ever had this experience. I'm sure you have because it's a very common experience. But it's like the experience of like going somewhere and then like coming home, and this is why this is probably like one of my favorite songs. Change and you change clothes and then you go somewhere else, and it's like what was authentic to you in like one part of the day might be differently authentic to you in a different part of the day. And I think, yeah, I think that that's a harmony. um yeah, thank you, Tiff. Tiff says like harmony has very different notes in it, but they are related in a way more than other notes. Interrelationality. Dang. Okay, someone else say something. I've been talking for a while. I agree with all of this though. I also feel like too we're like kind of dismembering some of the like conflation or like mental fog that can come up around authentic, where people are like, well, what is authentic? It's like, no, flip that. What is authentic? Like, so I don't know. How do y'all feel about that? Thick. What's up, Nobu? Hanging out with a friend in Sophia, and turns out his brother has studied Aikido and Tai Chi for years, so we traded styles. Oh shit. I'm just gonna go ahead and plug right now a container that's happening in the lineage space 000 called Spa, because I feel like it's about to get a facelift. And I'm gonna put that in my predictions. It's a martial arts lineage, so yeah, pull up. Happens on Monday. Let me double check the time. Mondays at 7 a.m. Louisiana time. So I trust y'all to do the factoring you need to show up. That's so cool. It seems like that was the most, speaking of authenticity, it seems like that was the most authentic thing for you to do. Oh my gosh. Are they okay? I hope they're good. Yeah, you're muted. You're muted. I wanted to go to another part in the text, y'all. Like, okay. So the the paragraph that Julie read was paragraph 15, and I wanted to look at paragraph 16, paragraph 17. Um, especially because like we're in this wheelhouse of like authenticity. I feel like, I mean, I don't feel like anybody has lingering questions, I'll be honest, but I'm like, okay, I feel like if there was lingering questions about why authenticity came up, this this I think this part speaks to it for me. So I'll read it out. One may think, where is it? What is it? Where is it to be found? The answer is, what little man knows about himself is only about his body. If you tell a man to point out where he is, he will point at this arm, this hand, this body. She or he knows little further than that. There are many who, have asked, what is it in your body that you think? They will say, thinking in my brain. Okay. I wanted to get to the part where he says, the reality is the reality is that man is one individual with two ends, just like one line with two ends. If you look at the ends, it is two. If you look at the line, it is one. One end of the line is limited, it is limitedness, and the other end of the line is unlimited. One end is man, the other end is God. Man forgets this end and knows only that end of which he is conscious, and it is a consciousness of limitation that makes him more limited. Otherwise, he would have had a greater scope for approaching that unlimited that is within himself, that is only the other end of the same line, that line he calls or he considers himself to be himself. So I feel like um I'm dead. Um yeah, I kind of wanted to read that because it makes me think of like, okay, so like if earlier we were situated in a place where we were looking at the self-conceptual self and the larger self with the like capital S, I wonder if this unlimited self is like zooming out one more scope, and for the sake of this context, being like um the person watching, or the self that's watching those two selves, which he's calling the unlimited self or God, and how like each of us is in a spectrum of these transpersonal transpersonal states of being authentic to one moment or one aspect of yourself, the self-conceptual self, or being authentic to the larger self. And then the one who, I guess to me, that's kind of how I'm seeing it, is like the one who observes those two selves being also another self and being kind of more unbounded or less confined than these two other selves, because yeah, that's just duality. And yeah, I just kind of am curious what comes up for y'all. Oh, thank you, Tiff, for the screenshot.
My pleasure. For me, what comes up is the idea of like walking a path, and like you got like in the middle, at like once you start the path, like I feel like generally speaking, the whole path is like the middle part of not being at the beginning or end. So it's like as time goes by, you keep traveling it or whatever. You can look back at the one end, but or you can like look at the other end, like where we're going towards. So it's sometimes people get stuck in the, like thinking about how like they're just on the path, and so they feel like they're always at the beginning because that's where they are. So maybe there's like another way to look at it if you're in the middle, like because that's always changing because it's really a spectrum. So it's like not just all middle, but like here's like beginning, middle, end, middle, close to end. Like, and you never know because it's the other end is unlimited, so you really never know it when you reach the end of it. So like it's kind of hard to focus on the other end when like all you know for sure is where end you're at or where end you came from. So that's what that brought up for me.
Yes, Tiff, thank you for saying that. Yeah, because you can be coming at it from any directional point on that like line or on the spectrum. So I really, yeah, thank you for saying that. And I feel like it's also helping me on like just a personal level, like not feel so weighted down by trying to figure out like what's authentic to me. Like I can't imagine it being a strenuous sort of thing that, and maybe for other people it is, but I guess just speaking personally, I'm like, I can't imagine myself really, really sticking to like, or like being attached, I'll say, to something just because I think it's authentic. Because it seems like what Tiff's saying, what a couple of us are saying, what this book is pointing to is like whatever that is going to be different at any given moment. Like some mornings I might want coffee, some mornings might want tea, some mornings I might be like, let me go work out. Some days I'm like, I'm too tired. And I think that oscillation is like, for me on a personal level, like is what creates like harmony. And it reminds me also of this tweet or like a thread somebody shared, how like they cook for themselves and like how they stopped feeling guilty about not cooking for themselves every single night, and like how it's helped them save up energy just in that context, to like be able to like cook a delicious meal and like very like party with like lots of leftovers for themselves like 2 to 3 nights out of the week, which just ended up working out for them. And like I don't know this person personally, but I'm like, damn, what a good energy management tip. Like, you know what I mean? I'm like, I feel like if like I could approach a lot of the situations I find myself in with that much grace, I would probably be a lot better off, honestly. Just kind of like banking on the fact that life is going to oscillate, and that also, I guess, by virtue of that, like what's authentic to us can oscillate too, in my opinion, in my experience. you know? I feel like,
Uh,
oh, what's up? What's up?
I was gonna let this go because y'all moved past acceptance into authenticity, but I think kind of like what you're coming back to, like with that last chain of thought, was this idea of acceptance again, because like specifically in like relationships, I have a hard time like when there are assholes, you know, like accepting that, right? And it's like for me, it's like, nah, motherfucker, like something's gotta happen, right? But like, I think because there is that toxic form of like acceptance, right, where it like it's allowing toxic behavior and like stuff like that, and that does exist, right?
Oh,
But it's like I think in a truer sense, like this authentic or this acceptance, what it allows us to do is reorient our energy, and whether it's like relationships where like you're trying to change people, right, and like get them to see their behavior or change their behavior or whatever. And when you let go of that, or you let go of feeling bad because you can't cook for yourself all the time, that energy comes like back, right? So when that energy comes back, then you do have that power to actually change the situation and move beyond it or do whatever needs to be done, right? But it's only when you accept that you have the power to do it.
dang, dude. Yeah, that part. That part. I really love what you said about like how acceptance ultimately lets us reorient our energies, because I do think it's that clear cut where it's like, yeah, especially in a relational sense where it's like I'll say this in shields, but it's only 'cause I'm like daddy in my relationships a lot of the times where I'm like, motherfuckers don't want to fall in line. And I'm like, I, but like I could fall in line with myself if I gave a fuck less about them. Like just a little bit less fucks, then I could give more of those fucks, or like repurpose those fucks back to myself, you know? So I really love that. Yeah, and I feel like honestly, like that's like we talk a lot about divine feminine principles, but to me that feels like a divine masculine principle where it's like okay, you might not know and there might be a flow every day, but if you look on the spectrum of like plotting out your own patterns, like you know yourself better than anyone else. So it's like, like it's like there's this part of you that could give grace, and then there's that part of you that can like move into what I feel like this divine feminine, I mean, divine masculine principle is, which is like radical acceptance in order to reorient yourself back to yourself and back to like what you need to be focusing on. Um, whether it is in like relationships with other people, people cutting you off on the streets, it's like I'm not even gonna fucking give this motherfucker the time of day because I'm better than that. I actually motherfucking am. So I wonder how that aligns for y'all. This like duality of principles. Like there's a divine femme principle and like a divine masculine principle. Cause I'm like, to me, that's like king shit, you know? Like the king within yourself gets activated when you can kind of, because I feel like it's like very part and parcel of the divine feminine principle to be like immersed and like receptive to the harmony that you're like part of, the greater harmony. And then I also feel like it's a divine masculine principle to like kind of rely on the harmony being there and to, yeah, buckle up, like put your foot on the gas, other like either way, you know? I don't know. What do y'all think? Nice. Tiff says, I don't have anything to add, just letting it rest like a freshly cooked steak. Yeah, definitely. I mean, it might occur for y'all differently. Like radical acceptance could also be a divine feminine principle. I guess to me, the way that like Agora was sharing about it, Psychonaut, it just kind of made me think of that. Um, just made me think of those examples and those moments in life where like I have to stand on business for myself. And so maybe that it's just like polarized in my experience in that way. But yeah, I'm curious. I'm curious, yeah, if there's any more in the room about radical acceptance and reorienting your own energy or focus too. If not, we can also move on. Yeah, I feel like in this chapter, like Hazrat and Khan was definitely spitting. Um, I want to say chapter 8. I mean, the chapter 8 was kind of party for me too. How was how was chapter 8 for y'all? Anything stand out from there? If not, you know what I'm thinking is we can possibly save the delineation of chapter 8 for next week and read the one page that is chapter 9, and then maybe talk more about this ancient music, the practice of mantra, maybe have like a mantra circle for like next week's book club. Um and then yeah, we can kind of proceed in that direction. How's that feel for y'all? Cool. All right, sweet. Thanks everyone for joining. I'm gonna let Craig go. Yeah, just as a reminder, the Sharia Way Book Club happens every Saturday at 11 a.m. Louisiana time. And if there's any those times might change sometimes depending on what my weekends look like. But I will keep you guys updated. So thanks for tuning in and peace.